Our spiritual teachers teach the importance of right action. With so many activities to perform on a daily basis, how do we know what right action is, and how do we choose to act rightly in every moment?
So the question is, how do we become saints? I think that's the question that's being asked. But it's a very good question. And I'll just say this. Right action means any action that has us feel, not emotionally, this is a spiritual question with a spiritual answer, that has us feel better, more uplifted, more conscious, more expansive in our views and understanding spiritually of this world, that has us feel more kind, more compassionate, more joyful, that has us have an experience of any spiritual quality or tendency that leads us more towards knowing any of the affirmations that Swamiji's written for us for every week of the year. Everyone. We can look at any one of those. More kind, more into positive thinking. They just go on and on. That's what right action is. And it's unfailing. There will never be a mistake with it. You will never be involved in right action and feel worse about yourself, or feel spiritually and energetically contracted. You might feel some pain because people get angry with you, or that you don't want to be angry. You might also have the human emotion running alongside of it. But if you can work your way back into your astral spine, your center of power at the third chakra, your heart at the fourth chakra, if you can draw your energy to the point between the eyebrows, if it is truly right action. This is right action is a phrase that Krishna uses all throughout the Bhagavad Gita. It's exactly how he holds divine awareness, intuitive perception. So that's what we're talking about. It's always uplifting. If you have something you want to say to somebody or an action you want to perform, ask yourself, how does it feel in your heart? Do you feel better? Do you feel calmer? Do you feel at peace or in peace? If you do, try it out. And if you don't, if there's the tiniest little voice saying, are you sure? Or if the moment you say, this is a great idea, but you take a little step forward, little step, and suddenly you get questions, just stop. That's what we have to do as human beings, because none of us are perfected in the way that we know 100% for sure, except for those moments where we're blessed with an inspiration. And those we know beyond a doubt. So it's our spiritual practice that just leads us again to more and more and more often knowing what is right action.
I have recently become aware of a resistance within me to engaging with life, a type of reluctance to get involved with daily responsibilities and needs. Is it possible to be interested, engaged, and find enjoyment in the world, but not lose myself in it?
Absolutely. Let me just say that. This is one of those things that might be true, but isn't always easy. And we rarely move towards true spiritual growth by overtly, I'm going to use this word consciously, shirking responsibility in the world. Rather, it's better for us, as Krishna counsels Arjuna in the Gita, to grow spiritually through the action that brings us into the world. If somebody is, and I hear this a lot from women who have small children who may be working. So they're married, they're working, they have children. That's when I hear it the most. But I hear it from men and others as well, that they're finding it very difficult to find that balance. And it is difficult, in part because we have preconceived notions of how we do things in the world. So what we feel is the way to be a good mother, a good wife, a good husband, a good employee. We could just go on and on, but just to be in the world, that may need some adjusting. So that may be. Somebody was just telling me a story that their partner of many, many years was needing to spend some time, this was before this pandemic, in a nursing home. And they couldn't find their way to not be there twice a day for at least 2 hours. They just felt enormous guilt. So without going through that person's story, it's an example. Can we be in love with someone and behave well with them and treat them well and show our love and bring our kindness and care to them in less than 4 hours a day? Could we do that in an hour or 2 a day and not feel guilty? Because the guilt is what makes us of the world. And all of those tendencies that pull on us, fear, guilt, again, jealousy, anger, those are the things that make us be of the world. Attachment to a certain degree of wealth. We could just, material wealth, we could just go on and on. The more we learn to let go of how it's been taught to us, shown to us, come through in a desire in us from a past life, let go of our previous notions of what being in the world means, and begin to live more from a place of spiritual truth. The easier it is to be in the world, the easier it is to be with your children when you have a practice of every time you look at them, you decide to tell yourself you're taking care of Krishna when he was a baby, because you are. That's the truth. So if we begin to see everything that we're doing in the world in a divine light, we are less feeling like we're moving less and less like this in my spiritual place in the world, spiritual world. We begin to bring our spirituality into the world with us, and we find ways, they come to us, to be less and less inclined to be moved off of our path. Even while we're being a great mother, this is just an example because it can be anything, a great husband or wife, a great employee, we can be totally out in the world because many of us need to be in the world. But most of us don't want to be of that world anymore. We're finding new ways. Now, sometimes, and this is very hard, a very commonly asked question, that means that we lose our appetite for many of the things that we have shared with people we love in the world. And we don't want to go out to eat in the same places. We don't want to have the same types of entertainment. We don't want to stay up as late because we want to get up earlier and meditate. We might not want the television in every room on in our home all the time, or the same music being played, because we're changing our vibration. But we've got to find the balance as long as we have responsibility in the world. It is true that Krishna says that at certain moments in our life, lower dharmas, or certain dharmas that we've had, dharma means right action, they've been right, are superseded by higher dharmas. And he even tells us, if that happens and you have to move beyond this lower dharma, I will be there with you. I am always watching you, and I myself will make sure that you do not accrue any bad karma. That's wonderful. I read, that's a stanza right near the end of the Gita, in the 18th chapter, not quite the last stanza, but very close. I just read it to a friend yesterday because it was relevant for them. I read it often in my own life, but we need to be very sure then, particularly if it comes to big dharmas, like people leaving their family. I mean, even Babaji sent Lahiri Mahashaya back to his family and his work after he had told him he'd be bringing Kriya to the world. We need to have that discernment of a master. If we don't have it, we need to find one who can help us before we just nonchalantly let go of those things. Better for most of us to be finding ways to spiritualize our behavior in the world. And it's challenging. We are often, I myself, at times, need to be in positions in the world that I think were I left completely to my own devices, I wouldn't choose. Who really knows? But instead, I have to say to myself, this feels like it's your karma and your dharma now. How will you do it in a way that will help you grow spiritually? So that's what we have to look for and find.